Well, welcome. This is the second presentation of a pension seminar. About 6 months ago, Chief Lane contacted the pension board and thought it would be a great idea to try and gather some information and give it to you guys about what actually your pension benefits are, what some of give you some more information about your deferred comp account, and what the taxes and implications of the money that when you retire, some of the decisions that you have to make, and some of the choices you have to make, and try to keep you from making a bad decision. So we're trying to give you some information now, and it's pretty much just a starter. And you'll need to go seek more professional advice, whether through ICMA or Nationwide or someone outside. But this should give you the basics and at least let you ask the right questions when you sit down to speak to somebody. So today, Katie Zuccarini from Employee Benefits will be here. She's going to speak this morning. She's kind of going to go over where your pension calculation comes from. Where do these numbers come from? How does she get them? And kind of walk you through that. Angela Buchanan from Nationwide is also here. I think most of you guys know her. She's going to talk about the 457 money and some of the tax consequences of it, what things you should or should not do with your money when post-retirement or as you're retiring. Herb Lazinski is also here from ICMA. Most of you guys know him. He's around the fire stations. They're going to give more of a presentation. Mark Houston, who is with him, Mark's going to give us a presentation kind of on the financial planning, a little more on the financial planning side. But they're also here to answer any questions you have. So we'll let, and then I'm going to, after Katie goes, I'll speak to you and give you an overview of your pension. Let you know the history of it, where we came from, where we're at right now. Probably over the last 10 years or so, we've had a lot of changes to our pension. Some of the things that you might remember, you know, when a COLA kicks in or how old you have to be for a COLA, some of those things have changed over the years. And kind of give you a refresher of where we're at with the pension. So let Katie come up and go over the numbers with you.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You guys can send when I do my calculations for you on whether it's a normal retirement, it's a backdrop, it's a forward drop, what I do is I actually download your payroll history and use your history that you know your past history as far as I wanted to let you guys know, I handed out a packet of papers, and this is what we actually go over when we meet to do the calculation for and retirement paperwork. This is your drop paperwork that I go over and we fill out at the time that we actually meet. So I just gave you guys a packet just so that you can read it over. So that you understand the drop, because when you're signing up for the drop, it is it's an irrevocable election. Once that first check's cut, it's an irrevocable election. You can't come back and say that, I want to normal retirement. I just make copies for you on the actual drop paperwork, and then this is some of the application for retirement benefits. This is something else that we actually process or we complete when we meet, when you and I meet. And this is the election on what type of retirement that you're going to retire with. So this is the actual retirement detail that I pull, or payroll detail that I pull when somebody is retiring. And you can see here, it gives me the hours worked. I'm looking, when I do your actual calculation, this here is the hours worked, and this is your actual payroll, the actual history that you've been paid over the last however many years. Usually, the calculations that I'm doing, it's the last 3 years is your high. He had 1536 as far as the hours, the number of hours that he worked, pensionable hours that he worked for the year, and his salary, the income for that year was 59,000. You've got 2012, 1110. You have for the 96-hour shift, we're using 7488. That's 3 years worth of salary that I average. Okay, so the total for the 3 years is 281. And you also have the prorating of the longevity that's included in that. When I do a calculation and an estimate, I don't go in and actually dissect your income. I pull the detail that you saw earlier, and then the actual average to get your average income. And then once your final check is posted, then I actually go in and make sure that all of the income that's in there. Because a few years back, we had an issue with the working higher class that was coded as a pensionable income, and it's not a pensionable income. So that could affect your average. When I'm doing the calculations, when I pull the detail here, and then when I do the final calculations, if you've got any working higher class in that average that I'm using, I have to decrease your average income by the amount that you have, of the working higher class. So on this particular screen, and I think this is the one that he had handed out earlier, you're looking at a monthly benefit of approximately the 62%. That's a gross amount because the 68% is what your for the 20 years or above. You've got over 20 years. If you have more, this particular calculation is for 25 years and 8 months. So this 85% of your salary is what we're using. Is what you're receiving on the, for a normal retirement. Now, for a backdrop, what I do is I go back to the retro date, and then I pull the detail from that retro date. So say you are backdropping a year. You can go back 5 years, but say you're backdropping a year. You're going out in 2014. I'm going to go back to your 2013 and then use 3 years. Your 3-year average from that point back is the retro date, and excuse me. And then same thing. I just bring it over into the calculation screen, and that's going to give you what your monthly benefit is. But the retro date, of course, you're going to learn if you backdrop earlier than the 25 years, then you're going to have a lesser factor, the calculating factor, because you're going back to a retro date. Okay. The forward drop, with the backdrops, you work to the actual date of separation, and then we use, and then you separate employment. With your forward drop, the difference between the two is you're actually still working. You're going to continue to work. We're calculating what your monthly benefit is based on your 3 years from this point back, and then the money is going to, it's as if you had retired, but you're still continuing to work. So the pension contributions that you make as an employee, that's going to stop because your monthly benefit is frozen at what the actual date is that we're using as your date of retirement. So the monies that you would normally contribute to your pension, that's gonna stop. And then the monthly calculation that we use, or your monthly benefit, is going to go into the drop plan, and then you're accumulating interest on that, and it's paid on an annual basis. It's compounded on an annual basis. When you actually separate employment, then what happens is then you have the drop monies in the account. You'll get an annual statement. Well, we're working on that with Workday, but you're going to get an annual statement on what your drop balance is. So that's the difference between the forward drop and the back drop, is you actually separate employment, going back, and we're using a retro date to do the calculations, and then you get the drop monies at that time. Or with the forward drop, you continue to work, you stop contributing to the plan, and then when you separate employment, you can forward drop 5 years, you can back drop 5 years. You can't, it's not a contract, you have to, saying that you're gonna stay the 5 years, because you can actually separate any time between the time that you enter into the forward drop to the 5 years. You don't have to stay for the entire 5 years. Okay, it's not a contract that you're staying. It's not a contract for the fire department saying that they have to keep you either. Okay, so you can separate any time within that period of time, and then you receive.
These are slides off of the PowerPoint and a copy of the calculation sheet that she just had. And you'll see my PowerPoint in a little bit. It'll kind of go over some of the numbers where you'll be at. We based this off of, we used a 25-year lieutenant. We thought that was a good kind of a mid-range. Obviously, a engineer, a firefighter, the pension's going to be a little bit lower. Chief officers will have a little bit more.
What I have here on the screen, this is the forward drop estimate, so this particular, the lieutenant, his monthly full 5 years, you're looking at approximately $485. But as you can see, it's an amortization schedule, so you could actually leave earlier than the 5 years, and then you just go take notice to whatever the balance is at the time that you leave. You'll get, when I do the estimates, you'll get, a copy of this as well when I do the final calculations. And you don't get a copy of the final calculations normally. If you want a copy of it, you can. What I do is, once your final check has been processed, I do the final calculations. I go in and I inspect the payroll to make sure that there isn't anything in there that's non-pensionable, or there's something that's not in there that is pensionable. And then accounting, I give your name to one of the accountants, and they pull the information as well. And then we meet to confirm that the numbers are accurate. So it's not just me, it's, we do have a check and balance as far as your calculation. But this is the forward drop, and then the back, like I said, you would enter the forward drop based on what your date of retirement is, and then the money goes into this account each month. Your monthly benefit goes in, and then it continues to accumulate from that point. Do you guys have any questions in regards to the calculations? Basically, with the backdrop, it's again, what I do is we use the retro date, depending on how many years you want to drop. If you want to drop 1, 2, 3, you can drop all the way back to 5 years. I'm using a retro date from that point, and then when you separate employment, that's when you get the actual money. In the packet that I gave you, you've got several different options with the drop on what you want to do with that money. You can take the whole entire amount, which we don't recommend that you do because of tax implications. You can roll the entire amount over into another qualified plan, which would be your deferred comp, or you can take part of it and you can roll part of it. So you've got a lot of different options in regards to the actual plans themselves. So I know that some of you guys had questions from the last seminar.
I may have missed, the interest is fixed at 8, and then if you backdrop, you don't get that interest?
You do get the interest. Okay. And it goes into an account, you'll get an amortization schedule just like this, otherwise it's like that.
And that interest is fixed regardless of whatever happens?
When the plan was designed, then they did fix that at 8%. So now, another thing that I wanted to mention, and I know that Doug's going to go over the benefits, but back in 2008, they enhanced the plan. Your pension right now, normal retirement is you receive your benefit for life. And then if you're married at the time of retirement, then your beneficiary gets 75% of your benefit. Okay, that's the plan, the way the plan originally was. When they enhanced them, when they made the changes to 99 type and 1 minimum benefits, that they adopted the benefits. What they did for the original plan was they added the 10-year certain. So what that is if you pass within 10 years after your retirement, your beneficiary, and it doesn't have to be a spouse, it's you can elect whoever you want, they receive the same amount as what you're receiving for the remainder of that 10 years. So say you died 5 years after retirement, your beneficiary is going to receive 5 years at the same amount as what you've been receiving, okay? And then at the end of that 5 years, or the remainder of that 10 years, then it drops down to 75% for your spouse. Okay? If you have a minor child under the age of 18, they receive 25% of mom's 75% until they turn 18, and then that portion, and if you have multiple children, that 25% is divided amongst the number of children that you have. And then as they turn 18, that money goes back to mom. Okay? Then they also adopted
I have a question. Can you have more than one beneficiary? Meaning, like, if I died 5 years after retirement and my wife dies a year after me, does anybody get that extra other money?
Well, depends on which election, and that's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
On the plan, the way that it originally was designed, no. Your wife is your beneficiary. These are your optional benefits here, okay? Option 1, life with 10 years certain. This is what you receive as a retiree and you've got the 10 years certain. So the remainder of that 10 years, if you pass 10 years after retirement, then the benefit automatically goes to the 75%. That has to be your wife, okay? Then
It has to be the spouse you were married to when you retire, and the same spouse when you pass away.
correct.
How does that work with the forward drop? If you're in the forward drop, you said technically you're retired.
Well,
Does the start date start at when you start the forward drop of retirement?
10 years certain.
Correct.
Okay.
It's not total stuff.
Okay, so the plan, the original plan, the option 1A, okay, life with 10 years certain. That is, your spouse at the time of retirement has to be the same spouse at the time of death. That 10-year certain, though, does not have to be a spouse. You can designate that to whoever you want to. Now, then you've got your optional forms, 100%, 75%, 66 and 2/3, 50%. That is actuarially reduced, and that does not have to be a spouse. There is no 10-year certain. It does not have to be a spouse. You can designate whoever you want on that for those options. Now, your benefit is reduced based on the age difference in the life expectancy between you and your beneficiary that you elect on those. Now, one disadvantage of this is if, say, you chose the 75%, your monthly benefit goes down to the $62.95. Your beneficiary receives the $47.21 upon your death for the remainder of his or her life. Okay, if that spouse or that beneficiary predeceased you, your benefit goes down. You, as a retiree, your benefit goes down to the lower benefit. So as you've seen, not too many people choose that.
What's the most popular one? What is the most popular one people choose?
Well, it's either if you're married, okay, nor the plan, the original plan with the 10-year certain. I have had a lot of our married firefighters, not a lot, a few of our married firefighters, they've done the 100% where there's no 10-year certain because you're used to living on that lower amount and your beneficiary, your spouse is going to, or whoever it is going to continue the same benefit for the remainder of their life. Okay, so, I mean, those are really the two options. There is also another, it's life with, roll that down. Life only, you get a little bit more, but when you die, that benefit goes away. Nobody gets anything for no beneficiaries or anything. those are the different options that you have, and with the forward drop or back drop, you're making the election on what type of benefits you want when you enter into the forward drop or back drop. Any questions on that? Yes.
Make sure I understood that correct. If you take life with 10 years certain, you retire. If your spouse passes away before you, your monthly benefit decreases to that 49.
Not the life with the 10-year certain. If your spouse passes away before you, you can change the beneficiary for the 10-year certain. But once that 10 years is up and the clock starts ticking, once you start receiving your benefit, okay? It doesn't, and same with your forward drop. If you enter the forward drop and you elect the life with 10 years, that clock starts ticking then. So if you pass away within that 10 years, then your beneficiary is going to get that the remainder of the 10 years. It's not when you separate employment, right? So on the regular plan, the plan life with 10 years certain, if your wife's predeceased you, then you can change the beneficiary. They receive the remainder of that 10 years benefit, and then it goes away.
Okay.
Unless you have a child that's under 8.
Please no.
Getting ready to retire. Is there any other questions in regards to the transfer?
Wife for 10 years. Give them 10 years. And wife for 7 years.
Correct. So, no, this is when it drops down to 75%. After the 10-year benefit, she's going to pass away 5 years after retirement. She's going to get 5 years of the same benefit as what she has in this year. At the end of that 5 years, it's going to drop down to the 75%, and she'll continue to receive that. Your COLA does kick in after 3 years retirement, and your beneficiary does receive the COLA as well, and it's based on what your anniversary date is when it kicks triannually, so your beneficiary will receive the COLA increase.
Maybe that's because it's only for the 10 years.
That's going to be the ICMA or...
Yeah, Angela will get, I'll hit it just a little bit, and then Angela will get the H50 with drop.
On the graph here.
That's why we have them trying to hit those more facts.
On the graph here, the top right, and on the screen, it's two different, there's a figure there. It has an asterisk next to it.
Not on the screen, on our paper.
On our
Like
paper.
with 10 years certain.
Because that, I'll get that, I'll cover that in my portion. It's because of the title of that column is benefits at first death. And truly on that, the life with 10 years certain, that first option, we're looking at this page that says lieutenant with 25 years and 93,000 at age 54. There's that asterisk because it's not at the age of the first death. That's the 75% that your spouse would get upon your death. And that's why I put that asterisk there. That it's not the first death. It's your death with the life with 10 years certain.
He just calculated out what the 75% would be.
Right. That's what your spouse will go down to, and then the joint beneficiary ones, the one under those are on the death of the first death, whether it's you or your spouse. That's why there's that asterisk there, and the number is different.
4 years.
Well, thank you, Katie. I appreciate it, and certainly now that she's kind of out of the my workday crunch, I think anybody that had asked for some calculations, she said she's worked over the last week or so and gotten caught up on those. And she's always available to try and help you and answer your questions, and a tremendous resource that we have.
You guys, Saturday I sent out a bunch of calculations as far as the estimate and stuff, so if you didn't receive it, please contact me. But I went through my list and I updated this, what I did, the calculations that I have as far as the estimates and stuff, and I emailed them out. So, and if you have any questions in regards to what I did send out, because normally what I do is I send out, if you call me and say, hey, you want, backdrop calculation, we don't specify on what the 5 years. I'll send you the 1 through 5 years. Now, my calculations are all manual. So if you call me and say, Katie, I want to know what my retirement's going to be in 5 years from now, I'm not projecting your salary out that far because it's all imputed salary, the contracts can change. I'll go out a year, but as far as, anything over that, the estimate that I give you, it's inaccurate because I'm imputing your salary out as based on what your salary is right now. So it's not, the estimate's not accurate. So I'm not gonna go out that far. I'll go out a year or so. And if you call me and say, I wanna know if I retired 5 years from now and I'm backdropped to my 20 years, then yeah, I can do that because I've got your salary there. I've got the average income of your actual pay that I can use. So just keep that in mind because I know that I sent out a couple this weekend that have requested the 2019 estimate. Well, I'm not going to give you that, guys, because it's time consuming and it's all, the numbers are all made up, so. Okay, any other questions on here?
I have a question about insurance. If I was to retire out, how does that affect my family? Do I have to go out and find out by my own insurance now, or can we still get insurance to the city?
You can still continue to cover your spouse or your children. As an active employee, the city contributes 73% towards your dependent coverage.
Right.
Okay? Once you retire, the city's not contributing anything towards your dependent coverage. We're at 95% of your premium now. It was 100%, but this year they changed it to where it's 95%. The city funds 95%. So you're paying $33.68 for yourself.
Right.
Okay, a month, and that'll be deducted directly from your pension check. Now, if you continue to cover your spouse, you're looking at approximately $600 a month to cover your spouse. Cover family, you're looking at about $1,600 for family coverage. Now, we do have, you can cover just you and your spouse, you can cover you and your children, and you can cover the whole family. So depending on what you elect, but you can continue to cover them.
Is it a different cost than what I'm doing right now?
I'm sorry?
Is it different than what I'm covering right now if I'm covering?
Yeah, because we're paying 73% of that extended coverage.
Oh,
You're
the
paying
city is.
100%, right.
Oh, I see.
Once you retire, then you pick up 100% of
I
the
see.
premium for your family.
Oh, it is a lot.
It's quite a bit more. Percent of your salary, well, it's 3.40%. I have to go in and actually look at it. It's 3.4% per year, so.
I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Briefly touched on interest earned on the forward drop versus back drop.
23.5.
I know it's 8% on forward drop.
It's 8% on the back
How
drop.
does that improve? Monthly, yearly?
Okay, no, it's annually, it compounds annually.
Compounds annually, and then you said back drop improves interest also. I was looking.
Yeah, when you separate the monies, when you backdrop, I'm entering your monthly benefit into the backdrop. There's amortization, just like this that I showed you on the forward drop. And it actually, you'll get that amortization and you'll see that it's 8% and it's compounded annually as well. So, yeah, I enter your monthly benefit and then it gives me the actual amortization and you'll see the actual breakdown. But yeah, it's 8%. Any other questions? Yep. Okay, thanks, guys. Give me a call if you guys need, or email me and ask if you're wanting an estimate. You can send me an email or give me a call. I'll add you to my list, and then once I get to your date,